Who are you? That voice cut through me like ice. My heart slammed against my ribs as I clutched my clipboard to my chest like some pathetic shield. The conference room wasn't what I expected. Instead of my team's meeting setup, there was just one man sitting at the head of an enormous mahogany table. Black suit, sharp jawline. Eyes that looked right through me like I'd committed some unforgivable crime. I tried to convince myself this was just a simple mix-up. Wrong room, wrong time, easy fix. But my pulse wouldn't slow down. Something about the way he stared at me made my throat go dry. I'm sorry, I was looking for conference room D. I stammered, and my voice came out so thin and shaky that I wanted to disappear into the floor. The man stood up slowly, deliberately, and that's when I realized just how badly I'd screwed up. He had to be at least 6'2", maybe taller. Broad shoulders that filled out his tailored suit perfectly. The kind of presence that didn't just fill a room but owned it completely. This wasn't some regular employee I could apologize to and walk away from. Conference room D? He raised one eyebrow, and somehow that tiny gesture felt like judgment. This is conference room A, and I called you here. My brain short-circuited. Called me? What did that even mean? I'd never seen this man before in my entire life. I would have remembered someone like him. Sir, I think you might be confusing me with Kieran, right? He said my name like he already knew everything about me, like he'd been studying me before I even walked through that door. Your profile was impressive. That's why I personally invited you. Profile? Invitation? I was just a marketing intern's assistant who got sent to deliver files to my team lead's afternoon meeting. What profile was he talking about? He moved closer. Way too close. His cologne hit me before anything else. Cedar wood mixed with something darker, something expensive that probably cost more than my monthly rent. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't look away from him even though every instinct told me to run. You know, he said quietly, and there was the strange smile playing at the corner of his mouth. I don't usually bring my dates to the office, but your request was too interesting to ignore. Date? My face burned so hot I thought I might combust right there. This wasn't a date. This was a horrible cosmic-level misunderstanding. But he was looking at me like I was some fascinating puzzle he wanted to solve. Piece by piece. Sir, I really think there's been a huge mistake. Asher, he interrupted smoothly. Call me Asher. Let's drop the formalities. Especially when we're alone like this. Asher. Why did that name sound so familiar? My mind raced through every company email I'd ever skimmed, every water cooler conversation I'd half listened to. And then it clicked. Asher Whitmore. The CEO. The man who could fire half the building with a single signature. And he thought I was a date. I tried to step back, but my hip hit the edge of the table. Trapped. Asher placed one hand on the table beside me, effectively caging me in. His other hand rested on the opposite side. I couldn't escape even if I wanted to. And the terrifying part, some small stupid part of me didn't want to. Nervous? He asked. And his voice had this teasing edge that made my stomach flip. And no, I lied. And we both knew it was complete garbage. He pulled out his phone and turned the screen toward me. A dating app. My stomach dropped when I saw what was on it. There was a photo of someone who looked like me. Same dark hair, same build, similar facial features. But the bio, the details, the entire profile, none of it was real, none of it was mine. This isn't me, I said, my voice pitching higher with panic. Asher's confident smile faltered for the first time. You're seriously not him? We stared at each other. The silence stretched out, heavy and thick with confusion and shock and something else I couldn't quite name. Something that made my skin tingle despite the absolute absurdity of this situation. Then his phone rang. He answered without breaking eye contact with me. Yes? A pause. His jaw tightened. What? You sent Kieran? The marketing intern? His eyes slowly shifted to me with this dawning realization that was somehow worse than the confusion. Horror flickered across his expression, followed by something I couldn't read. I'll call you back, he said tersely and ended the call. His gaze returned to me with new understanding. So, you're the real Kieran. The one who came to drop off files. I nodded mutely. And I've been, he trailed off, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up for the first time since I'd walked in. I've been treating you like you're my dating app match. We both stood there in complete silence. This whole thing was insane, completely ridiculous. The kind of mistake that would make a great story years from now when the humiliation wore off. Maybe. But then Asher did something I absolutely didn't expect. He started to smile, and then that smile turned into a chuckle. And then he was actually laughing. This deep, genuine sound that transformed his entire face. "This is," he said between laughs, shaking his head in disbelief, "this is literally the stupidest situation I've ever been in." And somehow his laughter was contagious. I started laughing too, nervously at first, but then really laughing. The tension shattered like glass. But when our laughter faded and our eyes met again, something shifted. The air between us felt charged, electric, like we'd crossed some invisible line we couldn't uncross. Asher took a small step closer, his expression turning serious again. "Kieran," he said softly, and the way he said my name made my heart do something complicated in my chest. "If this wasn't a date, can I take you on a real one?" I opened my mouth but no words came out. My brain was still trying to process the last 10 minutes. The CEO just asked me out. The CEO, Asher Whitmore, and he was looking at me like my answer actually mattered to him. I started, but I didn't even know how to finish that sentence. Asher's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it and his expression changed. Less playful, more focused. "I have another call I need to take," he said, but he didn't move away from me. "But Kieran, think about it, please." He finally stepped back, giving me space to breathe again. I grabbed my clipboard like it was a life preserver, and practically fled toward the door. "Conference room D is 2 floors down," he called after me, and I could hear the smile in his voice. I didn't trust myself to respond. I just nodded and walked out as quickly as I could without breaking into a full run. As the door closed behind me, I leaned against the wall in the hallway, my heart still racing. What the hell just happened? And why was I actually considering saying yes? I thought the next day would be normal. I was wrong. The moment I stepped into the office, my best friend Riley intercepted me near the elevators. "Okay, spill. Is it true that the CEO personally summoned you yesterday?" Gossip in this company spread faster than a wildfire in a drought. Everyone was staring at me as I walked through the floor. I could feel their eyes following my every move. "It wasn't like that, Riley. Just a misunderstanding," I muttered, dropping my bag onto my desk harder than necessary. "A misunderstanding?" Riley's eyebrows shot up. "Because Logan told me that Asher Whitmore mentioned your name twice." "Twice, Kieran." The man barely remembers his own assistant's birthday. Logan was Asher's personal assistant and the biggest gossip in the entire building. Of course this would come from him. "Riley, seriously, Kieran." That voice. It went straight through me like an arrow. I turned around slowly, already knowing who I'd see. Asher stood in the middle of our department floor, looking completely out of place and absolutely magnetic. His suit was impeccable, charcoal gray today with a black tie. His expression was unrateable, professional, but his eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my knees weak. The entire floor went dead silent. Even the keyboard stopped clicking. "Come with me," he said quietly. But it wasn't a request. It was an order wrapped in velvet. I looked helplessly at Riley, whose jaw had literally dropped open. Then I followed Asher toward the elevators, feeling dozens of eyes burning into my back. We ended up in a private conference room on the executive floor. The kind with floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, and a door that locked with a soft, ominous click. "Look," I said immediately, trying to take control of the situation. "If yesterday made you uncomfortable, we can just forget." "Uncomfortable?" Asher turned to face me, and suddenly he was closer than before. "Kieran, I'm not uncomfortable. I'm intrigued." "Intrigued by what?" "By you." He crossed his arms, studying me like I was a business proposal. He was considering. "You didn't reject my offer yesterday. You ran away from it. Which means you weren't opposed to the idea. You were scared of it." My face heated up. I was in shock. "Okay? And now?" he pressed. "Now what? Are you still in shock?" His eyes held a challenge, daring me to be honest. I was about to answer when he pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. The dating app profile. The fake Kieran. "This person is real," Asher said, his tone shifting from playful to deadly serious. and he's using your identity. I had my security team investigate. His real name is Mason, and he's sans. My blood ran cold. What do you mean dangerous? He's a scammer, but it's worse than just stealing your photos. He's been using your personal information, bank details, your home address, everything. I sank into the nearest chair. This wasn't just embarrassing anymore. This was actually terrifying. Asher, I didn't know. I know you didn't. He sat down across from me, his expression softening slightly. And I want to help you, but we need a strategy. A strategy? We need to draw Mason out into the open. And to do that, he paused. And I saw something flicker in his eyes. Nervousness. Maybe? You'll need to go on real dates with me. Publicly. So he sees it and gets jealous enough to make a move. I actually laughed. This sounds like a plot from a movie. It's not a movie, but it is effective. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. And honestly, I want to spend time with you anyway. Fake date or not. My heart did that stupid complicated thing again. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about things that matter. I searched his face for any sign of a joke, any hint of manipulation, but there was nothing except raw sincerity. This powerful, untouchable CEO was asking me a nobody assistant to help him catch a criminal. And maybe possibly actually wanted to date me in the process. Okay? I heard myself say, okay, I'll do it. Asher's face transformed with a genuine smile. Not the polite CEO smile he probably wore in board meetings. A real one that reached his eyes and made him look younger, more human. Good. He stood up and straightened his tie. I'll pick you up tomorrow at 7. Wear something nice. We're going somewhere everyone will see us. He walked toward the door but paused with his hand on the handle. And Kieran? He looked back at me over his shoulder. Just so you know, fake dates have a way of becoming real. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Then he left. I sat there alone in that conference room for a solid 5 minutes, trying to process what I'd just agreed to. My phone buzzed. A text from Riley. What happened? Everyone saw you go up with him. I didn't even know how to begin explaining this. How could I tell her that I'd accidentally stumbled into the CEO's dating app meeting, discovered someone was stealing my identity, and now I was going undercover as his fake boyfriend to catch a criminal? Another text came through, this time from an unknown number. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'll send a car. Asher. He'd somehow gotten my personal number already? Of course he had. I texted back, how did you get my number? His response was immediate. I'm the CEO. I can get anything I want. See you tomorrow, Kieran. I stared at my phone, equal parts terrified and excited. What had I gotten myself into? When I finally went back down to my floor, Riley practically tackled me. You were gone for 20 minutes. What happened up there? I can't really explain it, I said honestly. Try. But how could I? How could I tell her that in less than 24 hours I'd gone from invisible intern assistant to the CEO's fake boyfriend? That somewhere out there a criminal was using my face to scam people? That tomorrow night I'd be going on a date with the most powerful man in the building? It's complicated, I finally said. Riley crossed her arms. Everything interesting is complicated. Details. Now, I sighed. Can I tell you after tomorrow? I promise I'll explain everything. She studied my face, then slowly nodded. Fine. But you better not be in trouble. I'm not, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure that was true. As I tried to focus on work for the rest of the day, my mind kept drifting back to Asher's words. Fake dates have a way of becoming real. What scared me most wasn't the danger of Mason. It was how much I hoped Asher was right. The restaurant was the kind of place I'd only seen in movies. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting warm light over tables draped in white linen. A pianist played soft classical music in the corner. Waiters moved like dancers between tables, carrying plates that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck. I felt completely out of place in my best button-down shirt and slacks. Everyone else looked like they belonged here. Like this was just another Tuesday for them. Asher was already seated when the host led me over. He wore a black dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, showing off forearms that I definitely wasn't staring at. His presence dominated the space even in a room full of wealthy, important people. "You're late," he said as I sat down. But there was amusement in his voice. "Traffic," I lied. The truth was I'd changed my outfit 3 times and still felt underdressed. His lips curved into a knowing smile. "Nervous?" "No." I lied again, and this time he definitely knew it. A waiter appeared with menus and wine recommendations. I didn't understand. Asher ordered for both of us with the kind of ease that came from a lifetime of expensive dinners. I just nodded along, trying not to look as overwhelmed as I felt. "So," Asher said after the waiter left, "tell me something real about yourself. Not your job title or where you're from. Something that matters." I blinked. "That's a pretty intense question for a first date." "We don't have time for small talk," he said simply. "If we're doing this even as a cover, I want to actually know you." There was something in his eyes that made me believe him. This wasn't just an act for the cameras or the people watching us. He genuinely wanted to know. I hesitated, then decided honesty was the only way forward. "I don't let people get close easily. It's not personal. It's just safer that way." "Safer how?" "When you grow up alone, you learn that depending on people is dangerous. They leave. They disappoint you. It's easier to just not need anyone." The words came out heavier than I intended. More vulnerable. I looked down at my empty plate, wishing I could take them back. But when I glanced up, Asher wasn't judging me. He was just listening. Really listening, with this expression that made my chest ache. "I grew up alone too," he said quietly. "Different circumstances. Same results. Parents who were physically there but emotionally absent. Boarding schools where I was always the scholarship kid trying to keep up with old O. Tutors instead of friends." He paused. "Nobody ever asked what I actually wanted. They just told me who I needed to become." Our eyes met across the table, and suddenly this fake date felt anything but fake. We weren't CEO and assistant anymore. We were just 2 people who understood what it meant to build walls around yourself. "Asher," I started, but his phone vibrated on the table. His expression hardened when he saw the screen. "Mason sent another message. From your account." Dread pulled in my stomach. "What does it say?" "He wants to meet tomorrow afternoon at Central Park. He's pretending to be you, wanting to meet the real person behind one of his victims' profiles." This was it. The trap was set. We'd get him. "So, this is almost over then?" I asked, and I couldn't tell if what I felt was relief or disappointment. Asher set his phone down and reached across the table. His hand covered mine, warm and solid and real. Right there in the middle of the restaurant where anyone could see. "Kieran," he said, and his voice was lower now, more intense. "Whether we catch Mason tomorrow or not, I need you to understand something. This isn't over for me." My breath caught. "What do you mean?" "I mean that this started as a cover, as a way to solve a problem. But somewhere between yesterday and right now, it became real." His thumb traced small circles on the back of my hand. "What I feel when I look at you, when I talk to you, that's not fake. That's the most real thing I've felt in years." I should have pulled my hand away. Should have reminded him this was just pretend. But I didn't. Instead, I held on tighter. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted. "I don't know how to let someone in." "Then we'll figure it out together," he said simply. "No pressure. No expectations. Just, let me try. Let us try." The waiter arrived with our food, forcing us to break apart. But the connection lingered, hanging in the air between us like something tangible. We ate and talked about safer things. Favorite books. Terrible movies we secretly loved. Places we wanted to travel. But underneath every word was that current of something deeper, something neither of us wanted to name yet but both of us felt. When we finally left the restaurant, the night air was cool against my heated skin. Asher's driver was waiting. But before we got to the car, headlights suddenly blinded us. A vehicle screeched to a stop way too close. I squinted against the glare, trying to see inside. "Get behind me," Asher commanded, pulling me back against his chest protectively. A camera flash went off. Then another. Someone in the car was taking pictures of us. "Is that Mason?" I asked, my heart hammering. "No." Asher's jaw was tight as he shielded me from the camera. "That's a paparazzi photographer. Someone must have tipped them off that I was here." His driver rushed over, helping us into the car quickly. As we pulled away, I looked back and saw the photographer still snapping pictures through the window. "This is going to be in the news tomorrow, isn't it?" I asked quietly. Asher's expression was grim. Probably. My father has people who track these things. He'll know about you by morning. Your father? Something in his tone made me nervous. He has expectations about who I should be with. What kind of person is suitable for the family image? He turned to look at me, and his eyes were conflicted. You being with me is going to make things complicated, Kieran. Really complicated. More complicated than a criminal using my identity to scam people. That got a small laugh out of him. Fair point. But I could see the tension in his shoulders. The worry he was trying to hide. Meeting his father wasn't going to be pleasant. And I was the reason for it. Asher, I said softly, if being seen with me is going to cause you problems, don't. He cut me off firmly. Don't finish that sentence. I don't care what problems it causes. I'm not walking away from you. The certainty in his voice made something in my chest crack open. No one had ever fought for me before. No one had ever chosen me over the easier path. I reached over and laced my fingers through his. Then I'm not walking away either. He smiled, real and warm and just for me. But as the city lights blurred past the car windows, I couldn't shake the feeling that the real storm was just beginning. I didn't go to the office the next day. Couldn't. Asher had posted security outside my apartment building, and the weight of that decision told me everything I needed to know. Something was seriously wrong. Around noon my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and felt my breath catch. Asher stood there, but not the polished CEO I'd gotten used to seeing. He wore a plain gray t-shirt and jeans, his hair uncombed and falling across his forehead. Dark circles shadowed his eyes like he hadn't slept at all. Can I come in? He asked when I opened the door, and his voice carried a vulnerability I'd never heard before. I stepped aside wordlessly. We ended up sitting on opposite ends of my worn couch, the silence stretching between us like a physical thing. He stared at his hands, turning them over like he was looking for answers in his palms. That photographer last night, Asher finally said, breaking the quiet. He wasn't just some random paparazzi hoping for a celebrity sighting. He was hired, specifically to follow me. My stomach dropped. Hired by who? My father. The way he said it, flat, emotionless, told me more than the words themselves. This was old pain, familiar territory. I shifted closer without thinking. What does your father have against you being happy? Asher let out a bitter laugh that didn't reach his eyes. Happiness isn't part of the equation. It never has been. He finally looked at me, and the rawness in his expression made my chest ache. He's been planning my life since before I could walk. The right schools, the right friends, the right career path. And now he's decided on the right marriage. An arranged marriage? I whispered, already knowing the answer. Her name is Victoria Ashford. Our families have been planning this merger for 3 years. He ran both hands through his hair, messing it up even more. If I refuse, he'll use his majority shareholder status to remove me as CEO. Everything I've built, every change I've made to turn this company into something ethical and sustainable, gone. He'll hand it to his yes men and turn it back into the corporate machine it used to be. I understood then. This wasn't just about us. This was about Asher's entire identity. His purpose, his legacy. Then maybe we should. I started, but he cut me off. Don't. His hand shot out and grabbed mine, holding on like I was the only solid thing in his world. Kieran, please don't say what I think you're going to say. I'm trying to give you an out, I said quietly. I'm nobody. An assistant to a junior marketing analyst. You could find someone else. Someone appropriate. Stop. He moved suddenly, closing the distance between us and cupping my face in both hands. You really don't see it, do you? For the first time in my entire life, I have something worth fighting for. Someone who sees me. Not my last name or my bank account or my usefulness. His thumbs brushed across my cheekbones. I would burn down everything my father built if it meant keeping you. Tears pricked my eyes. Nobody had ever said anything like that to me. Nobody had ever chosen me first. Your career, your company, can be rebuilt. You can't. He pressed his forehead against mine, and we both closed our eyes. His breath ghosted across my lips. I spent 30 years being who everyone else wanted me to be. Let me be selfish just this once. I'm with you. I whispered. Whatever comes next, I'm not running. He kissed me then. Not like before, this wasn't tentative or testing. This was certainty, promise, and desperation all rolled into one. His hands slid into my hair, tilting my head to deepen the kiss, and I melted into him completely. But reality has terrible timing. My phone rang, shattering the moment. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail. But something made me pull away from Asher and swipe to accept the call. Kieran? The voice on the other end was familiar in the worst way, like hearing your own voice played back on a recording. Distorted and wrong. Who is this? I asked, even though dread was already pooling in my gut. I'm Mason. Or should I say, I'm you. A cold laugh. I've been watching. You and your rich boyfriend make quite the couple. It'd be a shame if something happened to ruin it. What do you want? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Simple. Stop interfering with my business. Delete all those investigation reports your CEO boyfriend ordered. And maybe, just maybe, I won't send his father some very interesting information about where Asher Whitmore really spends his nights. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, hands shaking. Asher gently took it from me, his expression hardening as he traced the call. Burner phone. Like I expected. But he's getting sloppy. There's cell tower data we can track. He was already pulling up contacts. I'm calling Detective Morrison. We need to move fast. He knows everything, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He's been watching us. Hey. Asher set his phone down and pulled me against his chest. Look at me. Nothing is going to happen to you. Or to us. I promise. But as I listened to his heartbeat and felt his arms around me, I couldn't shake the feeling that some promises were impossible to keep. And we were about to find out exactly how far Mason was willing to go. Outside my window, I noticed a car I didn't recognize parked across the street. When I looked closer, I could just make out a figure sitting in the driver's seat. Watching. Asher? I said carefully. I think he's here. Asher followed my gaze, his body going rigid. He reached for his phone again, but before he could dial, the car suddenly peeled away from the curb, tires squealing. He wanted us to see him, I realized. This is all a game to him. Then we changed the rules, Asher said. And there was steel in his voice I'd never heard before. He's been playing offense this whole time. Let's see how he handles it when we push back. He made 3 phone calls in rapid succession. His head of security, his lawyer, and Detective Morrison. By the time he hung up, there was a plan in motion. Surveillance on my apartment would triple. Unmarked police units would patrol the area. And tomorrow, we were going to set a trap. What kind of trap? I asked. Asher's smile was sharp and calculating. The kind that uses his own arrogance against him. He thinks he's untouchable. We're going to prove him wrong. I should have been scared. Maybe I was. But mostly I felt something else. Determination. For once in my life I wasn't alone in a fight. And that made all the difference. By the next evening my apartment had become a strategic command center. Detectives came and went, setting up equipment and reviewing footage from security cameras in the neighborhood. Asher's security team coordinated with the police, mapping out potential approach routes Mason might use. But as midnight approached and nothing happened, the tension became unbearable. This waiting is killing me, I muttered, pacing across my small living room for the 100th time. Asher caught my wrist as I passed, pulling me down onto the couch beside him. I know. But he'll make a move eventually. People like Mason can't resist when they think they're winning. What if he doesn't show? What if he just disappears and starts over somewhere else with someone else's identity? Then we've still protected you, Asher said simply. That's what matters most. Detective Morrison approached us, holding her tablet. We've got something. Traffic cameras caught a vehicle circling this block 17 times in the past 4 hours. Same make and model as the car you described earlier. Where is it now? Asher asked. Already standing. Lost track of it about 20 minutes ago near the industrial district. She pulled up a map. But if he's planning something, he'll need to come back here. You're the target. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You should see what I sent to Daddy Whitmore. Check the news. With shaking hands, I pulled up a news website. The headline made my blood run cold. Whitmore CEO in secret relationship with male employee. Scandal rocks corporate world. Below it were photos. Me and Asher at the restaurant. Leaving together. And worst of all, a photo through my apartment window from earlier today, us kissing on my couch. He's been watching us for days, I said, voice hollow. Taking photos, building a story. Asher's jaw clenched as he read over my shoulder. This is his play. Create a scandal big enough that my father has ammunition to force me out. It's already working, Detective Morrison said grimly, showing us her phone. Your father's legal team issued a statement 10 minutes ago calling for an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning to discuss your conduct unbecoming of company leadership. Of course he did. Asher's voice was cold. He's been waiting for an excuse like this for years. So what do we do? I asked, feeling helpless. We finish this tonight, Asher said. Mason wants attention? Let's give him exactly what he wants. 20 minutes later, I stood outside my apartment building, alone under a streetlight. This was the bait. Asher was inside with the security team and police, watching through cameras and waiting. If Mason was going to make a move, this was his chance. Every shadow felt threatening. Every sound made me jump. I checked my phone obsessively, rereading Asher's last text. I won't let anything happen to you. I'm right here. Footsteps echoed from the alley beside my building. I turned, heart hammering. Kieran. The voice came from behind me instead. I spun around. A man stood there who could have been my twin from a distance. Same height, similar build, same dark hair, but up close his eyes were different. Cold and calculating where mine showed everything I felt. Mason, I breathed. The famous original. He smiled, but it didn't reach those empty eyes. You've caused me a lot of trouble, cost me several lucrative opportunities. All because you had to go and fall for some rich CEO. You stole my identity, my life. Please, I improved it. Your life was boring before me. Working some dead-end job, living in this dump. He gestured at my building dismissively. I made you interesting. The police are already on their way, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Are they? He took a step closer. Or are they busy dealing with the fire alarm I triggered in the building next door? Funny how emergencies can distract people. My blood ran cold. He'd planned for this, known exactly how we'd set the trap and prepared countermeasures. Even if you arrest me, the damage is done, Mason continued. Your boyfriend's reputation is ruined. His company is in chaos. His father will destroy him. And you? You'll always be the scandal that ended Asher Whitmore's career. You're wrong. Asher's voice cut through the night as he emerged from the shadows behind Mason. He wasn't alone. Detective Morrison and 4 officers surrounded us. The fire alarm was a good play, but we had backup surveillance you didn't know about. Mason spun around and for the first time his confident facade cracked. We've been recording everything, Morrison said, stepping forward with handcuffs. Including your confession just now. Identity theft, stalking, blackmail and conspiracy to commit fraud. Mason Rivers, you're under arrest. As they led him away, still protesting, Asher pulled me into his arms. I was shaking, adrenaline finally crashing through my system. It's over, he murmured against my hair. He can't hurt you anymore. But what about the news story? Your father? Let me worry about that. He pulled back to look at me and despite everything, he was smiling. I need to tell you something. Earlier tonight, before all this started, I made a decision. What decision? I'm stepping down as CEO. My heart stopped. What? No. You can't. Your father will destroy everything you built. He can't. Asher's smile widened. Because I'm not stepping down in his favor. I'm reorganizing the entire corporate structure. I spent the last 3 hours on emergency calls with board members, the majority shareholders, and our legal team. By morning, the company will be restructured with a new board that answers to employees and ethical investors, not to my father's old money cronies. I stared at him, speechless. I'm still CEO, he continued. But my father no longer has any power over me or the company. And before you argue, he pressed a finger to my lips. I didn't do this for you. I did it for me, because I'm done living under his control. You just gave me the courage to finally take that step. Tears streamed down my face. You're insane. Probably. He wiped my tears away with his thumbs. But I'm free. We're free. As police cars pulled away with Mason in custody, as the night began to fade toward dawn, Asher and I stood together under that streetlight. No more secrets, No more threats, just us and whatever came next. Take me home, I whispered. Your apartment, or my penthouse? He asked with a tired smile. Whichever one has the most comfortable bed. I'm exhausted. He laughed and pulled me toward his waiting car. Penthouse it is, and Kieran, you're never spending another night alone. Not if I can help it. I didn't argue. I didn't want to. 3 weeks later, the dust had finally settled. Mason was facing multiple felony charges with enough evidence to put him away for years. Asher's company restructuring had been successful. His father's legal challenges were dismissed when the new board unanimously voted to keep Asher as CEO. And the scandal? It turned into something unexpected. Have you seen this? Riley burst into my new office. Yes, actual office, not a cubicle waving her phone. You two are trending again, but this time it's positive. I looked at the screen. CEO and intern had transformed from a scandal into a love story. Articles praising Asher for being authentic, for choosing love over family pressure. Op-eds about workplace relationships and breaking corporate stigmas. Even a few major LGBTQ organizations had reached out asking if we'd be interested in speaking about our experience. This is surreal, I muttered. This is amazing. Riley corrected. You're basically famous now. Also, Asher promoted you. Did you forget to mention that part? I had been promoted, marketing coordinator with a substantial raise. Asher had insisted it was based purely on merit. Had the HR department review my work history independently, and had recused himself from the decision entirely. But people still whispered. I earned this position, I said firmly. I know you did, Riley said, her expression softening. Everyone who actually works with you knows you did. Ignore the jealous idiots. My phone buzzed with a text from Asher. Dinner tonight? Same restaurant where we had our first date? I smiled and typed back. You mean our first fake date? His response was immediate. Nothing about that night was fake. See you at 7. That evening I arrived at the restaurant with none of the nervousness from last time. The host recognized me immediately and led me to our usual table. Apparently we had a usual table now. Asher sat waiting, looking unfairly handsome in a navy suit, his eyes lighting up when he saw me. You're early, I said, sliding into my seat. Didn't want to risk you thinking I stood you up. He was already smiling in that way that made my heart skip. How was your day? Productive. Overwhelming. The new campaign is launching next week and I'm terrified it'll flop. It won't. I've seen your work. You're brilliant. You're biased. Absolutely. He reached across the table and laced his fingers through mine. But I'm also right. We ordered dinner and fell into easy conversation. The kind that comes when you've survived something intense together. We talked about work, about Riley's latest dating disaster, about the ridiculous number of interview requests we'd both been declining. Then Asher pulled out a small box from his jacket pocket. My breath caught. Asher, relax, he said with an amused smile. It's not a ring. I'm romantic, not impulsive. He opened the box to reveal a bracelet. Simple, elegant silver with a small charm. I looked closer and saw the engraving on the charm. Conference room A. Where it all started, he said softly. Where you walked into the wrong room and completely changed my life. My vision blurred with tears. You're going to make me cry in public. I've seen you cry before. You're beautiful when you cry. Shut up. But I was laughing as he fastened the bracelet around my wrist. There's something else, Asher said, his tone shifting to something more serious. I've been thinking about the future. Our future? My heart rate picked up. Yeah? I want you to meet my mother. That caught me off guard. I thought, you said your parents were absent? My father is, but my mother, she lives in Boston now. Divorced from my father for 5 years. We weren't close when I was growing up, but we've been rebuilding our relationship. He squeezed my hand. She called yesterday, said she wanted to meet the person who finally made me stand up to my father. And you want me to meet her? I want you to meet the only family member who actually matters to me. His eyes searched mine. Unless you're not ready. I'm ready, I said quickly. Terrified, but ready. His smile was radiant. She's going to love you. We finished dinner and walked out into the cool evening air. Asher's driver was waiting, but he waved him off. Let's walk for a bit. The city was alive around us. Lights, sounds, People rushing past absorbed in their own worlds. Asher's hand found mine, our fingers intertwining naturally. Do you ever think about that day? I asked. When I walked into conference room A, every day, he admitted. I think about how if even one thing had been different, if you'd found the right room, if my dating app match had shown up on time, if I dismissed you immediately, we never would have happened. Fate? Maybe. Or maybe just really good luck. He stopped walking and turned to face me, right there in the middle of the sidewalk with people flowing around us like we were rocks in a stream. Kieran, I know it's only been a few weeks. I know by any conventional timeline this is too fast. But I need you to know something. What? I'm all in. Completely, utterly, terrifyingly in love with you. And I don't care who knows it or what they think about it. His hands came up to frame my face. You walked into the wrong room and found exactly the right person. But so did I. Tears spilled down my cheeks. You can't just say things like that in the middle of the street. Why not? It's true, because now I'm crying and there are at least 50 people watching. Let them watch. And then he kissed me, soft and sweet and perfect, right there under the streetlights with the city moving around us. When we finally pulled apart, someone nearby actually applauded. Asher laughed and pulled me close, wrapping an arm around my shoulders as we continued walking. So what happens now? I asked. Now, we go home. Tomorrow, you meet my mother. Next week we survive your campaign launch. And after that, he paused, considering, after that, we just live. Together. However that looks. That's simple, that's simple. My phone rang. Riley's name flashed on the screen. I answered to her screaming, "Oh my God, you're viral again. Someone filmed Asher kissing you on the street and it's everywhere. It's so romantic I'm dying." I looked at Asher, who had clearly heard every word. He just shrugged, completely unbothered. "Let them film," he said. "I'm not hiding how I feel about you." "You're impossible," I said. But I was smiling. "And you're stuck with me." "I guess I am." As we walked back toward his car, my wrist caught the light and the bracelet sparkled. Conference room A. Where everything began. Where a wrong turn became the rightest thing that ever happened to me. 3 months ago, I was invisible. Just another assistant in a corporate machine, keeping my head down and dreaming small dreams. Now, I was visible. Seen. Loved. All because I walked into the wrong room. Sometimes the best things in life come from the happiest accidents. And this was the happiest accident of all.